What is up, Retro Maniacs? Welcome to Retro Card Chat Podcast. My name is Mike, and I am from Mike's Retro Trading Cards. And I'm joined by two guys that, guess what? These two, when they have a little bit to drink, like to start dancing. There might be video evidence. I'm not going to say there is or isn't, but their names are Joe Day and EP Eric Pahalik. How you doing, guys?
Great.
Man, those growlers must have really jacked us up, man, because I don't remember dancing at all.
I don't think you're supposed to drink a whole growler. I don't know. Maybe not a whole one
once you
in
crack
the afternoon.
the seal,
Right.
you got to drink it, you know.
I was not dancing, though, so I'm not sure it was actually just the growler.
Well,
yours,
we were drinking IPAs, so
I mean,
so I make better choices is the lesson for all
fair.
of our viewers to get here. Yes, absolutely.
I'm glad
as
that
always, I'm the responsible one on this podcast.
Oh yeah,
I'm glad that every time
No
I dropped the word
argument.
shots, nobody said, "Yeah, let's do shots."
I was
the
game.
shots were not brought up. That's a good idea. Don't bring up the shots.
I mean, Mike didn't have your fireball there, EP. So,
oh man, if I had fireball, the dancing that would have been going on.
the dance.
Yeah, well, let's be happy for that. So, what's new, guys? What's going on?
It's been a few weeks since I've actually cracked one open, but we got a little Rusty Rail, unofficial sponsor of the podcast, and we are day drinking. So, waffle sauce. It's a little breakfast beer for 10:02 in the morning on a Sunday. But there we go. I have off tomorrow, so
tomorrow's a holiday.
Cheers.
Start celebrating now. How about you, EP?
I'm also going to have some of the unofficial sponsor, Rusty Rail Brewing Company, their 365 Modern IPA.
Mifflinburg, Pennsylvania. Check it out.
Yep.
Good food too.
So
great food, great beer, and we do not have a sponsorship, but we really should. What's going on here?
We need to work on that.
Mr. Opportunity, yeah. So EP, you didn't open your box of Bowman Inception University yet.
Not yet. It's actually still in the outer box. I haven't even taken it out of the outer box yet. So
wow.
So.
How many boxes did you get, EP?
I got one.
Where's the case, brother?
I can't afford it. Listen, the Drew Jones was not enough to get a case. It was not
with that attitude.
Spend some of that Drew Jones money, would you? Come
Open
on,
up his
everybody
wallet.
is waiting.
Balls are
for
flying
you.
out of it. Make your next big EP move.
Yeah.
But Mike, you opened some, didn't you?
I did. I opened 2 boxes of it, and okay. The best card I got was an autograph of, I believe his name's Hansel and Manuel. He's a basketball player. He has one arm. He's a TikTok star. He's like a pretty interesting dude and apparently pretty popular. And cards, I mean, is not going to pay for the box. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, at least I got somebody out of it that was worth something. I got one numbered to 99. I also got Joe, his name's Tyler Van Dyke. Is that
there you
what
go?
We're calling
Yep.
him? From the University of Miami, a quarterback, numbered to 75, which his card actually sells for a decent amount of money too. So I didn't have any big wins like, Mr. Golden Hands down there. So I know he'll have the box. He'll have a Webben. He'll get the Webbenyama. This is the first card I signed card and a Caitlin Clark out of his one box.
Yeah,
that's
possible. I could see.
I wish.
Just record it for the channel. I'm
definitely gonna record it. Just in case. But
can we talk a little bit about how many content creators can't say Victor Wembanyama? Like, I'm not sure why they have so much difficulty pronouncing his name.
There is a second or third tier podcast out of Central PA, and the 2 hosts were having a really hard time.
Oh, I listened to that one.
And to me, I'm not even going to try. It's like our old buddy Jazz wouldn't try. It wouldn't say certain words.
Trajectory,
because he couldn't even say it right in his head.
He couldn't.
So it's like, I'm not going to try and speak it. So I'm going to leave it alone. But yeah, that third or fourth tier podcast in Central PA.
I want to take a second here to call somebody out on this podcast. It is none other than that guy down there who is a co-host on that third-rate podcast from Central. They call themselves the #1
I didn't say that.
podcast, but you let it happen on your watch.
Well, I
You
mean,
did let it happen on
if
your
do
you
watch.
have more
add up our
downloads on Apple than you
listens
guys-
on
than we
Apple
do on this one.
Podcasts and Spotify and our views on here, we are blowing you out of the water. It's not
Blowing
even
you out of the
close.
water.
How could you let that happen?
And we can
Listen.
talk all this shit because his co-host is not even subscribed to our channel and does not
Yeah, he
watch
doesn't know
our
what we're
videos.
talking about.
So we can really do a drive-by on that Rob
I mean,
guy.
it's 2023. When you're a content creator, you can just say whatever outlandish thing you want, and half the
Okay,
people
as
will
long
think
as
it's
you're
true.
but-
half the people think it's true. You know,
What do you do for a living?
I work at a newspaper.
And what are you responsible for? Do you let your reporters just
The
say
truth.
whatever they want
No,
to?
definitely.
Plus,
definitely not.
you were on the clock while this happened because
This
this
is
was
true.
a
This is
daily
accurate.
item podcast. So I feel
We-
like you allowing the disinformation to be put into the universe was doing all of the viewers
Fake
and
news.
listeners
I
a
don't
big
know if you
news, as they
guys.
say.
disfavor.
I don't know if you guys listen to every episode, but we don't do a lot of fact checking.
We
on our
have.
show.
I think we're the only two people here
might
that
be
have
the-
listened to
yeah.
every episode.
and your co-host has not watched a single one of our pods. What's that tell you about dedication?
We try to support the card
We
industry in
lift
Central
each other
Pennsylvania.
up.
We go to
I
card
appreciate
shows and
it.
make
Thank you, guys.
appearances
Thank you
to
so
bring
much.
in the people.
Thank you guys. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. I will continue to encourage my co-host Rob to
Mhm.
Yeah.
to watch us or listen to us in some
I
way.
don't know. I feel like I should like superimpose Rob's hat on the EP during the podcast. I
It's
could
old
do
man
that.
hat.
Power of editing. Oh well. Anyway, let's move on with the #1 sports card podcast in Central Pennsylvania. That's Retro Card Chat, right? Everybody.
Right. I mean, absolutely.
Absolutely. Whether it is or isn't, we are. Okay. So, of course, we recorded a video last Sunday, dropped it Monday morning, and what Monday morning, the news comes out that Fanatics bought PWCC. We didn't have anything about it on our podcast because we recorded it Sunday. So, of course, they had to drop the major bomb on Monday, but
I blame you, Mike. I blame you.
What?
You've been carrying water for Michael Rubin and Fanatics all this time, and he didn't give you the heads up before the pod that we could have had breaking news. This is on you, man. You are
I
the
wasn't
Fanatics insider.
allowed to announce it until they did.
You know,
When
then
did you
what's
know?
the point?
When did you know? And you didn't
Oh,
tell
I
us?
knew.
Months ago.
You remember episode 1? Go back and listen to it. Think about the things we talked about there. I've known all this, but that's really part of the story. Like, you have a lot of people that are actually like kind of shocked that this happened. Like, why? Well, again, go back to episode 1 of this podcast. This podcast has been built on talking about what Michael Rubin has said he wanted to do for Fanatics, and then watching him do all those things he said he wanted to do and reacting to them with very little surprise because he said he was going to do it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But by the way, do we bring up episode 1 of the pod more than EP brings up 2023 Top Series 1? It's one or the other. I mean, it's
More
pretty
than
darn
that,
close.
but not as much as he says back in 2012.
The EP bingo card, if you will. Yeah, I mean, people were really shocked by this. I'm more shocked, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Why didn't they just build their own platform? Ziggy and Dustin, Sports Card Dad, made really good points that PWCC's name is kind of tainted at this point, to the point where they might even change the name to like Fanatics Marketplace. They're just taking,
They'll do that anyway.
like,
They'll
then
definitely
why
do that.
buy it? Why couldn't they just build up their own? You would think they'd have the resources to do that. Is there, is the stank from PWCC not bad enough that they're like, oh, we'll just buy it up and change the name so we don't actually have to create anything of our own? I don't know. It just kind of shocks me that they would buy and not create.
I mean, that's.
But I
kinda
guess
what
that's Ruben's thing.
Yeah,
right?
That's,
Buy
that's
and
what
not
they've been
create.
doing. Yeah. They've been buying, and the thing is, like, as much as there are a lot of people in the hobby that are upset, like PWCC, shill bidding, all that sort of stuff. There are a lot of people that overlook. We've talked about this, like, think every week. Like, people just overlook a lot of the bad actors, bad actions. There are a lot of podcasters, a lot of content creators now who are they're watching PWCC auctions and talking about them as they're happening. There are a lot of content creators that I'm guessing they have some sort of deal with them. and so they're doing that, and I feel like they're not as I don't think the people dislike them as much as we think they dislike them, and so I don't think there's as much of that taint on them as
we might be in that bubble where we hear it all the time because we watch all of the content that's put out, but people outside of that world probably don't care as much as we think they do.
Right. And then when they change the name, all that's completely gone, and then all of a sudden it's Fanatics. And
well, here's a follow-up to that. So if one of the smaller companies, like there was rumor that Alt was looking to buy them, I believe.
Alt, do you think they were the two that
Golden part of collectors, right? Yeah. I wonder if Alt, because Golden's a bigger company, they would have just took PWCC over. Do you think if Alt bought it, they'd be PWCC Alt? Like PWCC's name is probably bigger than Alt's at this point, right? Mm-hmm. So like that might have been the only situation where they got to keep their PWCC lineage or name or what have you. So yeah, that was interesting, but it's definitely going to be Fanatics Marketplace or
I mean
something to that effect.
I would be highly surprised if it becomes anything, but they said they're going to take some time to figure out the best way to integrate that into the Fanatics collectibles, but it'll be rebranded at some point. I mean, again, this is what Fanatics does. They don't create, they buy, and apparently from the rumors that were out there, this was a pretty good buy. I don't know. I've heard as low as like 10% of the actual value because of the debt that the company had accumulated from. I mean, this is PWCC's downfall was loaning out money for cards at the peak of card values. Who would have ever guessed that would work out badly, right? So I do like, these are all just rumors. Like there are no financial details or anything have been released about it, but yeah, I mean, if they're going to take over some of that debt that they had and like bail them out, that was probably a big part of the sale. I mean, you get your marketplace and you get your vault all in one deal. So when you start talking about that, creating the product, selling it to the consumer, having them break it, having it sent to a grading company, which we'll get to that next, and go from there to a vault, and then you can send it from the vault to the marketplace. Like there are two parts in one little purchase, but you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I mean, why bother building it yourself if you could just go in and buy it? It's kind of my feeling.
Yeah, if they bought it for 10 cents on the dollar, sure. I mean, I get that. I'm wondering what kind of assets the PWCC has left, and
mainly we talk about cards. They have the cards that people defaulted on.
Right.
Like I would love to know like how much in like market value they have in cards that people just walked away from, because they were loaning out at I think 40% of the value and people were still walking away. So like really you want to like people talk about the market not dropping and it still being strong. Like you had a lot of people that borrowed at 40% that was like, you know what, it's not even worth that now. Just
right. I was going to say 40% back when 2021, when the market was just crazy. Yeah. Now those cards at 40%, it's like I'd kill to get 40% of the value of what it was in 2021, so sure, I'll walk away from it, and depending on what it was probably a lot of ultra modern numbered cards, that people had slabbed in our PSA 10s or whatever. Like I don't feel like people were doing that with their Bart Star rookie cards, right? Like it was probably a lot of that new stuff.
I feel like PWCC probably has, based on everything I've heard, I've not used them at all, but they probably had a really good infrastructure in place with everything. And I think that was probably a selling point for Fanatics to get them. So
yeah. I mean, they do have a good marketplace. They have an auction marketplace. They have a fixed sale marketplace. So that all that infrastructure is right there for them. They can do what they want with it, and I'm sure they'll build upon it. But it'll be pretty interesting to see how this all works out. Next step in this, though, again, we're on episode 61. Go back 60. Go ahead, everybody else, because a lot of the content creators are now talking about, are they gonna buy a grading company? I hate to try to pat ourselves on the back here, but how many times have we talked about this? Like like, come on, like, this is
61
news to
times.
you now. Like,
Right.
again, go back and listen to his interviews. He has laid out what they want to do. They want to have a
One
grading company.
stop shop.
Yes,
That's what
those
he
words
said in those.
exactly.
You
And
know,
we
that was his
talked about
interview.
that like well over a year ago, and closing in on a year and a half now. So like, this is not new. And yeah, is anybody going to be surprised if they end up buying a grading company? No.
I think it's a win now, right? It's just a win. It's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
really.
Yeah.
No doubt.
That's the only part of this that they don't have, and they want to have it, so they're going to buy one.
And we said back then, please don't. I mean, and
Yeah.
Dustin recently.
Not saying it's a good thing. Like,
right.
We're
Yeah.
just saying that they laid out a plan and they're executing their plan. And anybody who paid any attention to this at any point in the last year and a half shouldn't be surprised by anything going on. So please stop acting surprised about it, because he's doing what he said they would do. Do we want to guess again what company it's going to be?
I mean, it's BGS, right? I mean,
it has to either be
is it-
SGC or BGS. Like, it can't be. I don't think it could be.
it's not PSA. That's
Not
off the
PSA.
table.
No, definitely not PSA.
We're not talking about PSA at all. They're completely off the table. It's BGS, and I'll tell you why it's BGS and not anyone else. Autograph authentication. No other company out there does autograph authentication. So if you're talking Fanatics, the jerseys, the hats, everything, one-stop shop. Oh, we're going to have this guy autograph this jersey for you. We're going to send it and get it authorized or authenticated by BGS. Like, no other company other than PSA does autograph authentication. Mike, we mentioned in the chat, I think you mentioned possibly CGC or CSG as a potential.
I think that's highly unlikely. Like,
that's highly unlikely.
Episode 1, I did think so because of the ties, but he just an investor in that. I feel like that's too big of a company.
And beyond that, they don't do autograph authentication either. Yeah. People assume they do. They have, with their comic books, a person has to witness someone autographing it to get a yellow label, they call them. Same thing with the cards. So Beckett will authenticate autographs. Beckett grades cards. They grade comic books. A lot of people don't realize that Beckett is the second biggest comic book grader out there. And I wrote it down. It's BCBS, I believe, is the acronym for their comic books. They do memorabilia. So, and the value you can get Beckett at right now compared to the other possibilities, I think they could buy him on the cheap and they do more than any other company available in terms of their services right now. And they still have a great reputation in the people outside the hobby know what Beckett is. Mm-hmm. People that have left the hobby 30 years, 20 years ago know what Beckett is.
I mean, I have some concern, like personally, like I don't want, like we were just talking about Fanatics changing PWCC's name. Like, I just don't want that Beckett name to go away. Like that would be just, even though I've never agreed with them.
I would feel like if they bought them, they wouldn't.
They would keep the name.
Like Tops.
Like, look at Tops, right?
Yeah. Like if you like, there's a lot of value in that name, so I think they're smart enough to know that the Beckett name would have more value than slapping the Fanatics name. I mean, I would hope.
And if you get that, you also get the price guy. Like you get a pretty big collection of if you acquire that company, like you end up with a pretty nice suite of different things in the hobby, the things that people love from the hobby, and it very much feels like a Fanatics type of thing. Just saying, you know what, we got Tops. You know what, let's get Beckett. Come on over here, Beckett. Come on in.
Right, the two biggest names lineage wise in the hobby from both sides of it, Tops and Beckett. I mean. And people may not remember because PSA is the rage, but Beckett was the grading company in the 90s and early 2000s, even before, slightly before PSA went on this like massive meteoric rise. People still valued Beckett graded cards over PSA graded cards. I mean, they were a tougher grade. You knew if it was if it was labeled a 9.5, most likely it was actually a 9.5. They're just, the lineage is there, the name is there. I don't want them to do it. I hope they don't do it. But if they do it, Fanatics should buy Beckett.
Well, I mean, if they get Beckett, they can make the card, have the company they own tell you what the condition of the card is, and have the price guide tell you how much that card that they made,
Right.
that they sent to their company that graded it,
Right.
is worth.
From a
One-stop
break
shop.
from their
One-stop shop.
company.
Yeah.
Right. It's just that's scary. That's
Again, I'm
So much money.
not
They're gonna make
saying,
so much money.
yeah, they are. Not saying it's good for the hobby. I mean, I think we're all pretty clear of that. That's a very uncomfortable situation, but it's coming, so we better get used to it. I don't know. I think personally, and we've put this discussion on the back burner for quite a while, but today we're going to break it out because there's been a lot of talk about it, and there is absolutely 100% a monopoly in this hobby.
wow.
Prism Monopoly basketball. Shout out to Ziggy. Yes, I bought a couple of these.
I was going to make a Ziggy Monopoly joke during this discussion, and I'm kind of upset you beat me to it with props of all things.
With props, but this, my friends, is the only monopoly there is in the card hobby right now. Say what you want. Fanatics has gotten into everything, but stop calling them a monopoly. They're not a monopoly. Now, there may be people on this panel that feel differently than I do. So let's have the discussion. Let's finally break this one out. Broke the glass in case of emergency. You know, the big news, they buy PWCC. Now all of a sudden people think they're a monopoly. Some people I know before thought they were.
No. I think they're a monopoly if they buy Panini or Upper Deck.
Okay.
If they buy another card company on top of Topps, then they become a monopoly. Then it's unfair, unfair to the rest of the card manufacturing world.
Okay.
So I have a question for the people that said this week this past week they're a monopoly. Like, why is the PWCC sale the thing that pushed you over the edge? That was very confusing to me. Whether you believe they are or not, and I think they're closer than maybe you do, Mike. But why was this week?
They're not even close.
The week. So here's my question.
Because people don't really understand what a monopoly is and why they're considered a monopoly. That's why.
So here's my question, and you guys might not know the answer to this, and maybe our viewers do, and they can answer as well. So at some point, Fanatics is going to have the licenses for the MLB and the MLB Players Association, the NBA Players Association, right? The NFL Players Association. So does that mean that no other grading company can make, or no other card company can make cards of current players ever again?
Correct.
So
not ever again, but during the time
right
of the deal.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Well, I'm just correcting that out there.
Yes. So until their licenses are expired, right? Their deals are expired. No other company can make a Patrick Mahomes card while he is still in the NFL. No other company can make a Drew Jones card while he's in the MLB.
He's not in the MLB.
He's in
when he is. I mean,
when he is.
Yeah.
I'm just using Drew Jones because that's our boy EP's
spend some of that money.
Aaron Judge. No one can make an Aaron Judge card.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
No one can make a insert basketball player here. I don't know. LeBron James card, I guess. Upper Deck.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good.
So
good name
no one
out
can
there.
make current players playing while Fanatics has these licenses. You cannot buy a single card of those players anywhere else.
Correct.
Okay.
Legally.
Okay. It's just my question.
Okay.
I'll leave that for interpretation of whether or not that's considered a monopoly. I don't know.
It's not considered a monopoly because you're taking it down to a micro level. First of all, a company has a right to license its product any way they want to, right? So, like, if people want to call it a monopoly, like, first of all, isn't a monopoly now? How's it any different if Fanatics is a company making the cards or Panini is making most of the cards? Because really, Fanatic, they're going to have the baseball license, so they're going to have more. But like Fanatics has football and basketball and other stuff too. They have a soccer, they have WWE, which Fanatics is also taking, but still. Like they have quite a bit right now, and nobody's ever calling Panini a monopoly.
I would have
So,
considered them a monopoly.
but like those organizations have a right to make as much money as they can by licensing their property. Like they own it, they're a collective, the NBA, the Players Association, and like they have a right. If an exclusive deal can get them more money than giving deals to multiple people, they have every right to do that. Like it's you. If you're making the Joe Day card from last week, it's you own the rights to that card right there. So if Fanatics comes in and wants to offer you more money than you can make by giving Panini and Leaf and Upper Deck that license to print it, why should you not be able to do that? It's your likeness. You should control who gets to make a product of your likeness. So that's why, like, people can still make football cards. They can't make NFL football cards. They can make XFL. They can make USFL.
So
they can make
retired players.
You collect if you don't want to buy Fanatics.
I mean,
you collect at that point.
It doesn't make it a monopoly though. Like it might limit the options you have, but that's limited by the licensing, not because of anything Fanatics is doing. That's why it's not a monopoly. Like they're not going out and creating, like Microsoft was considered a monopoly because when Microsoft was in their heyday, they were pretty much forcing the PC computer manufacturers to use Microsoft operating system. They would not allow others to come in to do it. So if you were going to make
forcing the collectors though at that point to buy,
but you're not, because you have a license. Like that's the league is doing it more than Fanatics is. Like, what is the reason that you can't buy NFL football card, like, or base? Let's use baseball right now since they have it. Like, why can't you buy a Panini MLB licensed card? Is it because of Panini or is it because of the MLB?
MLB sold the rights. I mean, to Fanatics, right?
So it's MLB is the reason you can't do that. So that's not Fanatics being a monopoly. Fanatics didn't do anything other than pay the MLB money to have the license. MLB decided they wanted to do an exclusive license. So if you want to point your finger and have anger toward anybody, point it toward the leagues, because they're the one responsible for one company making this, because they're granting exclusive licenses. We don't like that. We go back to the 90s and we see
I hear Mike saying, just because Fanatics has a lot of money and they're throwing a lot of money at people, don't be mad at them. Don't be mad at my Fanatics.
I honestly,
but be mad at the company to be mad at the sports organization for taking it.
I'm kidding.
I was going to text Mike's wife and ask her to take in a bucket of water into while we're recording and be like, Joe said you needed some water to carry from Michael Rubin right now. Just as a little fun joke, a little prop joke, but I didn't. I don't know if you guys have a bucket of water.
But the facts are the facts. Like, I mean, again, it's not Fanatics' fault that these companies want to license the way they do. That's up to the company to do. And like, none of the other stuff they've gotten into, there are like, okay, they bought PWCC. Are they the biggest marketplace?
See that
Are
I
they the biggest vault?
People.
No, they're not.
No.
If they say they bought Beckett, are they going to be the biggest grading company? No. So
actually, I take that back.
Even if they bought PSA, they won't be a monopoly because there are so many other grading companies out there, right?
Like that grade a reasonable number of cards every month.
Right.
If they bought Beckett, I think Beckett would overtake PSA in several years. If
stamp that,
Fanatics,
save that. Somebody say that. Clip that.
Here's my argument.
I'm not. So
the only show in town, the only real show in town, Fanatics, is telling you should grade with Fanatics. If you buy a Fanatics card, are you sending it somewhere else? You'd be stupid to send a Fanatics card to another grading company other than whatever grading company. And you'd be even dumber to sell it on eBay versus PWCC. I mean, if EP used the line on steroids, like during the steroids era, like, well, everyone else is doing it. I kind of feel that way. Like I would break with Fanatics because you're going to get the hot boxes. I would grade with whoever they have grading, and I would send it to PWCC to sell or vault or whatever. I mean, you'd be stupid not to. So if all the cards, legitimate cards, are being produced by one company, why would I not have my cards graded by that one company? And I'll tell you what, if I get a BGS 7.5 and an ultra modern card that came out of Fanatics, I want a replacement card. How many people are going to think that? If you broke with Fanatics, the card went right to a card saver, they shipped it over to BGS, and BGS gave it a bad grade, that's on Fanatics. That's not on me as a collector. You one-stop shop me and you gave me a 7.5, people would lose their minds.
Well,
yes,
it'll be interesting to see what the reaction. But Joe, you're consistent. You the same thing you said there. You said in episode 1. I remember that. Like, I totally do, and you have a good point there. And my point back then was like, you can't like, if Fanatics can grow the hobby, you're going to bring in, we talked about this too, a lot of new collectors. If they can do it, say 5x, right? You're going to have 5 times the collectors you have now, which means you're going to have 80% of those that don't know anything about PSA or Beckett. So like,
if Fanatics is bringing them in.
Yeah. Like the people that feel like PSA, oh, well, they're too big to ever not be number 1. That's not true. If they grow the hobby, now they have to grow the hobby, but if they're bringing in sports fans, people that like to buy jerseys and watch games that never really bought cards before, now they're buying cards, they don't have an allegiance to PSA. They will just, this company that I'm buying from is doing this, so I'll do that. So yeah, I mean, PSA is not untouchable. Like, things could change. Yes, factors have to happen for that to be able to take place. If they do or don't, I don't know, but I just don't assume that your PSA card is always going to be number 1.
It's likely. I mean, it's probably likely though, right? At this
point. Probably likely. Yeah. I mean, it has to happen before,
right?
Yeah, before it happens.
I mean, so Fanatics, like if we said at the very beginning, like they have taken action on all of their action items on their list so far. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if they do acquire somebody like BGS, I mean, it'd be very interesting to see what happens.
Right. And EP, I know you're not a fan of the slabs, but if you were someone who was consistently ripping and grading product, why wouldn't you go with BGS? I just can't see a scenario in which if Fanatics owns them, it just doesn't make sense.
When you could have it sent directly from
the break to them. You never have to touch the card, so you're not responsible for anything that happens. And then Fanatics has it graded.
I mean, in theory, they could have the grader sitting right next to the breaker, and the card could get graded while the break is going on. You know what I mean? Like
kind of
stuff like
the
that.
SGC Bowman situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
where they had the big Bowman break, and SGC on site was grading those cards. I mean, I would not be surprised if that was an option as well. I mean, it sounds like, oh, that sounds really cool. One-stop shopping. And then you think about it, it's like, oh, the only independent, let's have some separation of powers here, right? A little bit. I mean,
not gonna.
You're not gonna, but like grading is that last thing where it's like there should be some sort of. By the way, the people that are saying that, though, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. The people are like, oh, grading has to be this independent thing. Yeah. Yes, because grading has always been on the up and up.
Yeah.
Like they don't miss trimming or alterations ever. They've never given wink nod better grades to certain people. Grading's always been this just like high and mighty.
This industry that is attached to the hobby, that is not regulated in any way, is not transparent in any way, keeps no kind of record keeping or anything for people to be able to see, to check to see what happens. Totally on the up and up.
In a perfect world, I get it. Let's make sure that these things are independent from each other, but we're in the card world. We're not in the perfect world.
Yeah.
I mean, grading's just as shady, if not shadier, than most of the other things that are going on. Ziggy calls them wizards. I completely agree with that. You can crack open something and send it to someone, the same person 2 weeks later, and it's a different grade. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason.
Yeah, none at all. And I mean, would we see a world where PSA, I mean, that's a big company, nowhere near the size of Fanatics, but they're smart. They know what their business is. They've ramped it up. They've done a great job, like building up that business to be able to handle more. Whether or not the grades are accurate, I'm not commenting on, but from the business side, seeing where they were in 2021 when they had to shut down and seeing where they are now, they've done a great job. Do they look at this and go, you know what? If we don't try to find some kind of deal, like, do they call up Michael Rubin and say, hey, Mike, come in. We're the number one grading company. We'll do this for you. You can send them right to us. Like, I feel that has to at least be something that PSA would be interested in. I don't know if Fanatics would, but
they better get on it if they're going to, because they got to do it before Fanatics already has a deal in place for another grading company. And
maybe that's why they haven't bought a grading company.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, the way things are moving,
the negotiations with.
I would feel like that would be a huge, like, PSA has to see what they're doing and knowing what this business is going to look like in 5 years, and know that if they don't try to get in on that, it's going to hurt their bottom line, I would think.
It really depends on how much hubris they have. If they think we're number one now and come on, no one's ever going to unseat us no matter who's behind them, then maybe they don't. Maybe they just say, hey, we're good. We'll do our own thing. If they're reasonable, maybe they try and make a deal. I don't think they would ever sell, but I think
I don't
like
an
exclusive grading deal where breakers
just
from Fanatics
working on some. That's what I was meaning, like working on an exclusive deal with them for a certain number of years so they can grade the cards for them, because they're going to want that volume of cards too. Like, and they're the only company that can handle it. So, I mean, it would make sense to try to have some kind of a working agreement with them, some kind of business deal that they could be their official grader. But
I feel like if you're in the hobby, if any of the people higher ups in the hobby, you have to be looking at what's happening in Fanatics, like literally everybody, and say, I really hope that we can make a deal with Fanatics.
Yeah,
because that I mean, not just PSA or BGS, like everybody. Like, you look at SGC and their $9 deal that they had for the Bowman Chrome last year, and then Top Series 1 this year, and now, they just had it with Bowman again. Like, you're looking to make those deals, like, just to get on the good graces of this superpower in a hobby, right? Like, you have to be, like, everybody has to be, or you're gonna fall. Fall behind.
It's like in politics, when you start seeing someone grab more and more of the polling numbers, it's like, ooh, I better support them, because if I don't, I don't want to be on the outside looking in. And I could totally see that with someone like PSA going, ooh, man, if they put the Death Star onto us, the Death Star that is Fanatics. Right. We don't want to be in that crossfire. We don't want to take shrapnel for that. So maybe we should make a deal with them and try and figure something out on that level. And then you'll still have SGC doing their own thing. I think CGC, CSG is a big enough company as well that they should be okay. But PSA, it's not just about being okay.
It's not just about being okay. It's not just about being okay.
For PSA, I don't think it's just about being okay. I think if SGC consistently does what they're doing, which I think they could, because they have more of a niche market than some of the other grading companies. CSG has the comic book and the card grading, the non-sports cards, and the TCG. I think they would be fine. If you're just talking sports cards with Fanatics, I think PSA is the one that would go from mega superpower to really powerful, and that gap could be the difference.
Be a lot of money.
Could be a lot of money for that company. So I think they would be more concerned than the other two, in my opinion. I mean, everyone should be a little concerned. Collectors, I think, should be a little concerned, and I don't think we've talked about that too much. But like, everyone's talking about how Fanatics is going to be so much better for the collector. Some people believe it's going to be so much better for the collector.
Somebody has been saying that.
Someone has been saying that for quite some time.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know that.
And I noticed this as I was watching some breaks of the, what was it, Bowman
Inception University.
I noticed it, and it didn't click with me, but I watched one of Ziggy's videos, and he pointed out Wembanyama is a redemption.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. One of only like 2 redemptions in the whole product. Yeah.
So we have the picture of like Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger and twins, right? With Michael Rubin and Victor Wembanyama. And he's signing one card. Did he only sign one card? Was that the thing? So now you have redemptions. The one thing I think collectors as a whole can agree on is one of the worst things in the hobby, redemption cards. and the biggest star that you have to an exclusive autograph deal is a redemption, be better. Come on, Fanatics, be better. And Mike, if you carry water on this one, I'm just going to turn off the camera.
I'm going to carry water. Go ahead, turn off the camera.
Jesus
Well, I
Christ.
will say this. I mean, I'm not a fan of redemptions, and they know that. The thing is, at least they're there and he signed them, so they will have the cards for them to send out. I could be wrong, but I'm guessing that the people that send in the redemption will get their card pretty quickly. If that turns out to not be the case, I will then, say that was absolutely really bad of them. But apparently,
Quickly, is it real life quickly or Panini quickly? Because I think
real
those
life
are two different things. Okay.
I mean, they clearly have the autographs in hand now, so there shouldn't be any reason where if you pull a redemption, you send it in, you shouldn't have it within like a month, right? Like maybe even quicker, because they have them. Like that would just be them taking those cards and sending them out like they're supposed to do. That's how it's supposed to work. Panini might need to take a lesson from that. But yeah, I do feel like it's different than a lot of the Panini stuff where I saw one of the Panini, there was a AJ Styles and Edge dual autograph. They redeemed the card and sent it with the Edge autograph on it and the AJ Styles not on it.
What?
The wrestling world is like they're blind to all this redemption stuff. Like some of the people are just like, I don't know if they want to be clueless about it and just want to think Panini's perfect, but like everybody who has sports cards that collect them have been trying to tell these people, you know what, these redemptions could be a problem. Just don't assume. And yeah, their Triple H is taking a long time. Like people haven't gotten him back. And I saw the Edge without the AJ Styles on it. AJ Styles has been out hurt, so like
he's got time.
But he probably wasn't at the events where they decided to get him. Whatever, we'll just send it. I don't know, but
that's bad.
So at least if they have the cards, if we find out in a couple weeks that people are getting them and not getting the cards, then we'll have that discussion.
It's pretty bad that I was watching those breaks and it didn't even affect me as I'm watching, seeing redemption cards, because I'm like, oh, that's normal. Like I've even convinced myself that that's a normal thing. Oh, there's a redemption for the biggest player in the product. Oh,
there are a couple of them in there too. So
I feel like. I feel like this redemption issue in this case is a timing thing. Like they put this set together like super fast, right? To get Caitlin Clark in there after just the Final Four last year, and to get Wembanyama in there. Like I feel like they really put this all together really quickly, and I wonder, who knows how all the deals came.
Why'd they need to? Like, wouldn't you?
I mean, wouldn't you capitalize on Wembanyama if you were a card company?
Yeah.
Like,
is someone a month from now? Is someone a month from now not going to collect his cards?
I mean, you want to be the first. You want to be the first to
when he comes out with NBA cards.
Isn't he exclusive?
Oh yeah, but there's no official word that he's exclusive, but people kind of think he is. Yeah, but
and we also don't know like how the contracting kind of thing would work with like a foreign player like that. Like I don't know any of that sort of stuff. So I don't like. And is he a minor still too? I think. So like I mean, I'm not sure. So anyhow,
sure
like
how old he is.
Yeah,
so he must not be. Still drink wine. He can still drink wine.
He's like 12.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I definitely think to wrap this up, I think in the future it would be a really cool discussion to have a look ahead 5 years kind of thing. Say that Fanatics has completed their one-stop shop and look at it from the angle of what will that look like for a collector? Like, what are we seeing? How's it going to impact us as collectors? How will it impact the other companies? Like SGC, if everybody's buying from Fanatics now, are they not going to send to SGC? I don't know. Like, I think that would be a cool little topic I think we could cover in the future.
Yeah, like sure. The breakdown of like, I'd love to see the breakdown currently of ultra modern versus not ultra modern with SGC, because you'd have to suspect like the ultra modern would shrink quite a bit if Fanatics bought a grading company versus like some of the other stuff. But yeah, that would definitely be an interesting discussion. I'm still cautiously optimistic By the way,
Maybe-
it sounds like I'm
Maybe
not,
if it's
but I
not a
am
big
cautiously
news week
optimistic.
this week, maybe
Yeah.
we'll put that together for next week's podcast. I think
I'm
that'd
still
be a
cautiously
really
optimistic
interesting
about
discussion.
Fanatics
Oh
overall
yeah,
as a
same,
collector.
same.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Like, but you have to ask the questions. Like, there are a lot of questions out there, and the legitimacy, and especially with this hobby, how shady it can get. You have to at least ask the questions. That's why sports card radio is so popular right now.
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
think one of the biggest questions for us and for Mike especially is, how are you going to fit the word Fanatics into Mike's Retro Trading Cards logo? Like, where are you going to put it?
Oh, that's a good point.
You got to put it 5 years from now.
Mike,
It's definitely going to be in there.
It's
So
clearly going on the Bulldog hat, on the cap on
okay.
the Bulldog.
All right.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
have the
that makes
Fanatics
so much
logo right
sense.
there.
Yep,
Yeah, it'd be
yep.
perfect.
Call up your guy, Mike. We'll
I mean,
finish.
not that I've already had that discussion with anybody. I'm not
Right.
saying I have or I haven't. But
Honestly, the way Fanatics does it, they might just cut the mics out and put Fanatics retro trading cards. I mean, that might work too. I
Maybe.
mean, who knows?
I don't know. Maybe all those details haven't quite been worked out yet. But okay. Well, we talked a little bit about PSA. They now have their first player ambassador. Bobby Witt Jr. from the Royals, right? EP?
Yep.
Hey, how about that? Look at me. I'm a baseball expert, everybody. Yeah, apparently he's a pretty big card collector himself. He really got back into it, he said, again, like during the pandemic, like everybody else. And he used to collect Tom Brady cards, Joe. So, yeah. He has a big football card collection, which is pretty cool. But he is now their first player ambassador. They're going to do some social media marketing, like showing his collection and stuff like that. And, pretty cool. I think we all enjoy the players that like to collect cards, right?
Yeah, when we see a player that's one of us, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
And this guy was like, he was like the number 2, I think, pick in 2019. One of the members, like one of the favorite members of last year's rookie class, which I mean, a lot of people are after his cards. Rose fans, non-Rose fans, like a lot of people like him as a player. So it's really exciting. And either like part of their social media thing is going to be like giveaways of autographs and stuff like that. I love this from PSA again as a collector. I love to see when our athletes, the people that we collect, are also collectors, like that they're one of us. Like,
and when they're awesome. Actual collectors too.
Yes.
Like he sounds like an actual collector. Someone like we've talked about him numerous times. Someone like AJ Dillon, which I think we did bring up on the first podcast as well.
We did, yeah.
Ruben talked about ambassadors, ironically. Talking about ambassadors.
I was going to get to that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. AJ Dillon is a great example of that. He collects his cards. The thing that like, I would do this too, so I'm not throwing any shade. But like he walks around with players' cards at like practice, from what I understand, and it has like people sign cards and then gets them authenticated.
Did you see?
I would totally do that.
Yeah, if I had access.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So would I. So would all of us. Who wouldn't
all
do
of
that?
us would. Anyone says they wouldn't, they're full of shit. Because you absolutely would do it.
Did you see that AJ Dillon? I think it was on Instagram, like shared his Jordan Love collection.
Yeah.
He like pulled out one of the big briefcases and had like tons of Jordan Love. I'm like, yeah, you play with them. How many, like before when Aaron Rodgers was still there, you're probably like,
and Jordan Love had nothing to do.
Aaron's going, so I'm going to have him sign all these cards.
Yeah.
Make sure he's throwing to me.
I'm not going to say anything, like I'm not going to throw out legal terms or anything, but it's almost like insider trading. Like Aaron Rodgers is leaving. Ooh, I better get those Jordan Love cards on. He would have done it anyway, but he's got that inside knowledge. It would have been, I mean, again, I would have done it.
I noticed too in his video, he had like these shelving units and he had all these like cases, like tons of them on there. So he is a hardcore collector, which is cool though. Like you said, like we've talked about this from the beginning. This is our throwback podcast, I guess.
Yeah,
to talk about how right we were about everything in the very first episode. We're smart, all three of us here. Yeah, but we talked about card shows and stuff like that too, and like. Maybe instead of just having people come in and autograph, which is, I mean, it's cool. It has its place. But like at the National, we talked about, can't they do more with like players who collect cards? Maybe have panels of players who collect and talk about how they like. I would be way more interested in hearing, Bobby Witt Jr. and AJ Dillon's stories about collecting as players than I would just somebody.
Jeff Wilson doing a box battle.
Jeff Wilson doing a box battle, or any of that stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
Right,
I mean, Witt is a huge it was like in this article I saw on Sports Collectors Daily. Like there was a huge or Sports Collectors Digest. Sorry, there was he has a huge collection of Brady and Mahomes stuff, and then of course his own stuff. So I would love for him to see him open a really like high end baseball product.
But isn't it weird? Isn't it weird to want to own your own stuff? I mean, when you put a set of cards out, how weird is it that you're seeking out your own cards?
If you're a player, I'm okay with it. If you're a collector, it might be a little weird.
It's a little weird.
If the company's already printing it, like why not try to get your own superfractors? You know what I mean? Like that.
Well,
that leads
to the other thing that happened on.
Yeah,
IG,
what else happened Dan, with that?
Yeah, what are you talking about, Joe?
I don't know anything about superfractor.
So
what?
EP's boy, Drew Jones, Super Cooler right here.
Yeah.
He saw his superfractor, which I guess David Adams had a bounty out for
$250,000.
Yep.
Or
yeah,
was it $1 million or $10 million?
$1 million.
$1 million
if he becomes a Hall of Famer.
If he becomes a Hall of Famer,
and you
hold
everybody's taking that
$250,000. But he posts on IG something to the effect of, "I'll take it," or
let me get that. I think he said
that's how it was.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool, though. I did say to you guys on our text thread, I said, so Michael Rubin put him up to that, right? Like Michael Rubin was like, you need to IG this, and then that way it'll get a bunch of views on that card. Would it surprise any of you if Michael Rubin said he needed to do that?
If they did, it would be brilliant, honestly.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Also, you're an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid that got this card out that it's got a $1 million up to $1 million bounty on it. Like, and you got all this cash from your signings or whatever. Like, you're totally gonna try to get that card, right?
Oh yeah, I would.
Like, if you're that 18-year-old kid, it's like,
now,
oh my god, I gotta get this card for myself.
What if Drew Jones bought the card? Would he hold it? And
yes.
Yeah.
Would you bet on yourself?
Because he knows. Yeah, he knows.
Yeah.
He knows. He knows to get into the hall.
Absolutely. Yep. I completely agree with that. That's what one of the first
an
things I thought of. I'm like,
with his pedigree and everything, like, oh, he's definitely thinks he's in the hall 100%. He's gonna get a hall twice.
And if he's in the,
they're gonna make a new hall for him.
Yes.
And if he's in the Hall of Fame, it's like he doesn't need that $1 million for the bounty anyway, which I do find hysterical.
To prove a point.
Right. So he's 18. How many years would he have to play legitimately to be in the Hall of Fame? Ballpark.
I mean, he's probably gonna have to
20 years.
Play till he's 40-ish, in his 40s.
So let's say 40,
just
for easy math, right? And then do they do right away? Do they get in the hall, or is it like football where you have to wait
5 years?
Like 5 years?
I think.
Yeah,
is it 5 years?
There's a number of years, yeah.
So you're talking 25 years from now. Is David Adams still going to be in business? Like, that's the thing that I'm thinking. Like, of course you take $250,000.
Fanatics will have bought them out long ago.
I don't think I would survive until that amount of time. Like, there's no way I'm getting.
Oh yeah, we're not.
You know what I mean? We're not going to be.
Is it transferable?
Give me the 250. Give me the 250K.
Yeah.
Imagine how much Gypsy Queen you could buy with 250K.
Back in 2012.
Back in 2012.
I gotta tell you guys, they haven't released any of the materials yet on this year's Gypsy Queen, but I'm watching for it.
I'm a bigger Allen and Ginter fan than Gypsy Queen.
I mean, the more recent stuff, I definitely like it. But like the 2012 Gypsy Queen back in 2012 was amazing. So.
Wait, who makes Allen and Ginter?
Tops.
So you like the Tops made product, Mike?
Yeah,
better. Oh, that's interesting. Who owns Tops?
Doesn't Tops make Gypsy Queen too?
Yes.
Oh wait, who makes it? What does Upper Deck?
You're thinking of Goodwin Champions.
Goodwin Champions,
which I also like, and I have supported quite a bit.
Okay, that's
I still support Upper Deck. They make some cool stuff too. I'm a sucker for the sets that have like non-sports people in them.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Just like one of the
Did their
weird
Metal
things.
Universe one have non-sports people or non-major?
Yeah, because I got an autograph card of some country singer out of my box.
Nice.
Never posted that video because,
you got a country singer.
Yeah. Come on. That's what I get.
Boom,
Chance
boom,
to take. Yeah.
boom,
I did get
fire.
a PNG too. So, but.
Sheesh.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna wrap things up with one other quick little discussion. We see stuff on Twitter all the time. Just saw something today about somebody complaining about a couple little scuffs on a card and it wouldn't be a PSA 10 and wondering if Topps would replace it because not a 10. Like, no, doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there was a cool discussion about people who are now cracking, because a lot of people are apparently buying PSA 7s and 8s and cracking them and reselling the cards as raw. I mean, they're probably making money doing that because our obsession with grading and our obsession with getting a 10, even making some PSA 9s not worth what the price is. Like we talked about, people will pay more for a raw card because they hope it might be a 10 than they would for a PSA 9 that they know is mint. And because of this, now if you get an 8, forget about it. And a 7 is probably selling for for $100 card, probably selling for $10, right?
Right.
So now you have people taking advantage of that by buying the cheap, lower graded. I mean, an 8 is a nice card. Like, it's not a bad card. Yeah. You're cracking them out though and selling them raw and making a profit.
8s are great.
Yeah. 8 is what they. I mean, that's better than what they promise out of the pack, right? Don't they like promise 7s out of the pack? Isn't that what Tom's?
Yeah, I think
said?
near mint.
Like near mint 7 is like what they promise out of the pack. Like that is what you should expect for most of the cards is a 7. So 8 is better than what you should get out of a pack.
But it's worthless if you got it graded.
Right? Yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
But the comments were kind of split on it. Like I was just wondering what you guys think of the practice.
Go ahead, Jay.
Feels a little gross, right?
It does. Like it feels a little deceivy-ish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
100%.
But here's the thing: if you
not 100% though, because like an 8 could be a 10 next time.
Right. Like that's the thing, because grading
somebody
is
could
so
do that.
Subjective.
The person buys the card raw, sends it in and gets a 10. You know that.
Here's the thing: if someone cracks out a 7 or an 8, they take 20 pictures of it or whatever, depending on the value of the card, obviously, as well. If it's like a $200 card, get every one of those corners, get the surface a couple of times, front and back. If you are showing everything the card has to show, the 7 or the 8 number, that is just one person's opinion. And chances are, depending on the day that person had, that's why I got a 7 or an 8.
We all know.
So if you are showing the card in its entirety and you're not trying to do a camera angle trick thing to like hide a scuff or hide something, I'm cool with it, man. You do you. And especially now with the EB authentication process, that's going to go through. So if you don't like this card right here, someone sold the guy who sold it to me had sold it originally, did not mention the edgeware, even though it was in the picture, did not mention the edgeware in it. And it got kicked back. So you can't hide certain things as much as people used to on eBay. So if you're doing your due diligence and you're looking at the pictures and the person posts the appropriate pictures for it, I'm kind of okay with it. I get it, because grading is ultimately is subjective to one person's opinion on a certain day.
Okay, take back 100%, but like 50%, right? Because these cards still this card, like the person that sent it in probably was like, this is a 10, I'm going to send it in. At first glance, or but by looking at it, they thought it was a 10. So they're like, these people are cracking out a 7 and putting it out there for somebody like, oh my God, that looks like a 10 to me. And then they're going to buy it thinking it's a 10, then send it in and get it graded. And it could be anything from a 5 to a 10. As we've said, like depending on what day of the week it is. But yeah, I feel that's the part of it that thought to me. I thought like, because somebody thought that card looked really nice and should go in and it's probably going to be a 10, and it came back a 7. Yeah, that was my thinking on it.
Yeah, and like again, we have to separate. Like I think the three of us, when we talk about grading and grades, we kind of think about the cards we send in, like the stuff from like the 90s and the early 2000s, where a 7 you can maybe understand where you got it. Like ultra modern people, like there is a wide range of what those cards come back like just seemingly randomly. So like really, like say you're sending in a prism card that isn't completely off center, like what made it an 8 instead of a 10?
Right.
Like the corners don't get a lot of wear on them. The edges might get a little. Usually, it's surface.
I was
don't
gonna
know.
say probably with chromium cards too.
Yeah.
It's the
But, like,
surface is probably the thing that really
when
kills
you have
surface
the
design.
graders, we've seen 10s with like surface dimples or
Mhm.
lines
print
on them.
lines. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like you have to kind of feel like the difference between a 10 and an 8 on the surface could be the grader a lot of the time. Like,
Yeah.
there are definitely cards maybe people thought could get a 10 that they didn't notice something that was clearly there, but a lot of it's probably due to the subjectivity. And like if I'm cracking 8s and reselling raw, there's nothing saying that a lot of those cards might not come back a 9 or a 10.
Right.
Is it really any different? Here's my question to those that don't like it. Is there any difference in cracking that 8 that you just got back or just bought and resubmitting it and getting a 10 and selling it as a 10? Is there really any difference there? Because it was an 8.
Yeah.
Like it was a
Exactly,
7
yeah.
or it was an
That's a
8.
very good
So
point.
when you crack it and resubmit it and it gets a 10, are you going to say, "Oh, I got a 10 the second time I sent
Yeah.
this in"?
Was that
The
card a
first
10
time
or
it
an
was a
8?
7.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I get where you're coming from, EP, but
Mhm.
it's also like because we put such an emphasis on grading and one person's opinion in one moment in time,
Yeah.
that card, it was graded a 7 one time, then it's a 7 forever. I don't believe that's true. I believe that card could have a whole different life if butterfly effect, if someone else graded it. They sent it in 10 minutes later at the post office and it got to PSA a day later, and all of a sudden it's a different grader and they had a really good day.
Yeah.
And
really, at the end of the day, should you be buying a card on eBay that's raw and assuming it's going to be a 10? Like,
no,
that is a losing game right there if you're assuming it's going to be a
Absolutely.
10.
Yep.
And I know there are a lot of people that probably do it, but you really shouldn't. With the grading obsession, if a card is good enough to get a 10, you have to think that person most likely would have sent it in.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's where we are with cards.
I think I said it last week. We love Alico 3, but if he's selling cards raw on his eBay
no way I'm buying
store, buying it, because if it was good enough to grade, he would have sent it in.
Exactly. Yeah. So, okay, well, that's a good discussion. I think we'll wrap it up there. Anybody else have anything wanted to talk about? We talked about
this
it
was
all.
really good, actually. I was a little nervous because it was a little darker, but this was very, very tasty.
The modern 365 is delicious as well.
I'll have to try that as well.
I don't have any Blue Collar Blonde with me, but that would be my beer of choice this morning.
We did buy you some.
Where's that from? Where's that from?
From the Rusty Rail in Mifflinburg, Pennsylvania. If you're ever in the area, make sure you check it out and tell them Mike Spector Trading Cards sent you.
You'll get 10% off your bill.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
But,
strike that. Strike that.
If we get some of our viewers to go there and
That'd
have
be
a fantastically delicious meal at an affordable price and a delicious beer, and they say, you know what?
Real affordable when Mike pays for it.
We heard about you from Mike's Retro Trading Cards. They might give us some cheddar.
Maybe a little cheddar cheese, a little
bit. Just help us out. We don't ask for much. We don't want SGC. We don't want ComC. We don't want PSA. We don't want any of that.
We want
free
beer.
Want the Rusty Rail to give us a little bit of beer.
We want beers and burgers.
We want beer. Yeah, beers and burgers. We want a case of beer and one meal a month free. That's all.
That sounds fantastic.
I would deck myself out in Rusty Rail apparel for that. I do so much
Our
more
Seattle
for Fanatics
listeners,
for so much less.
Our Seattle listeners need to book a flight right now. I think there's an airport directly to Mifflinburg. There's a flight directly to Mifflinburg. You can just land on Mike's
We'll do a meetup. We'll meet you there.
I will pick you up and I will drive you right there.
Are we still recording?
I think we are. Yes. Yes, we are. I think I was trying to wrap it up and we just went on this tangent, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah. If you're going to the Rusty Rail, let us know. Maybe we'll meet you there. You can buy us as much beer as you want.
Oh, yeah. Buy us some beers.
That's also an alternative. If you want to buy us beer from the Rusty Rail, we will shout you out live here on
You could be our sponsor for that podcast.
All right, guys. That was a fun chat, and I will see you next week.
See you, boys.